E-commerce expansion myths blasted. Successful cross-border expansion help. Listen to the show to hear how one UK company is helping e-commerce sellers successfully expand into Europe and double their profits. Hosted by Andy Hooper of Global E-commerce Experts.
So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another exciting podcast that's going to help you with your EU expansion. The podcast aims to help people that are expanding into the EU marketplaces, and we have some exciting guest on the podcast this afternoon that really is going to help you to take your listings in the European markets to the next level. With your expansion into Europe, most people of our clients are English speaking. So what happens is they expand to Europe, they put their products in the UK, and they do their listings in English. And then from there, it goes on and Amazon kindly auto translates everything for you. Well, I'm going to be able to tell you today there's a better way that's going to increase your sales. So today what I'm going to do is to introduce Heloise. So Heloise, good afternoon.
Hi there.
So thank you very much for joining us. It's really grateful for you to give up your time and your commitment to help sort of spread the word and your knowledge.
No problem. Super excited.
Excellent. So why don't you first off talking to us about where you're based in the UK and perhaps where you're from?
Sure. So my name's Eloise. I'm CEO of Sell Beyond, and we're based in Suffolk in the east of England, which is the area where I grew up. Fantastic.
And for people that don't know the UK very, very well, it's a sort of bit stuck out on the eastern side. It's pretty remote. Is that fair?
I would say it's a rural county. Yeah. It's lots of farms, nothing much going on since the 16th century.
Yeah, quite right. And every time I go there, I get caught behind a tractor. And you end up going...
That's the joy of it.
Yeah, and you cannot get past on those roads either, can you?
Well, they're beautiful though, so it doesn't matter if you go slow.
Yeah. But the advantage is you're only an hour and a half or two from London, aren't you? You're not very far.
Even less than that, we're 60 miles, so it's 55 minutes on the train. No, it's pretty good service.
Oh, perfect. Look at that. So easy to get into London for meetings. So
that's right.
Now, so you've already alluded to that you're the CEO of Sell Beyond. So why don't you just give us a bit of information about how Sell Beyond sort of came into being?
No worries. Okay, so Sell Beyond is helps businesses grow online. We're commercially focused storytellers, data nerds, and linguists. So I built the company because when I was a kid, we used to take foreign language students to come and learn English. And so every summer we'd have kids from France, Germany, Spain, the Netherlands, you name it, stay all summer at our house. So from a really early age, I've always been pretty good at taking the outsider's point of view and figuring out how to get their buy-in and to make them go, aha. And I've taken that with me throughout my life. I'm now bilingual in English and French. I speak decent Italian and Spanish. And I did a PhD in the States where I spent a lot of time learning how to interpret data. So I decided to set up Sell Beyond a couple of years ago to combine the things I really love, working with entrepreneurs, using data, and being really good at languages and communication.
Fantastic. So, and how long have you been going?
So we've been set up since 2015. So about 3.5 years, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. So you're combining all the things you're really excited about. I love that. So how did that idea come about? I mean, obviously you've alluded that it's pulling some of your ideas together, but what gave you that this is what I need to do moment?
Well, on one hand, I've always really enjoyed marketing, and I did a bunch for a bunch of years in London. I worked in financial services, so I helped startups and small to medium-sized companies market themselves to increase their revenue. And I always really enjoyed that, but it was tended to be with companies in the UK and companies working in the UK. And my husband's a French speaker, so at some point I started to think whether maybe he could get some part-time work doing translations from English to French. And then I realized that actually it was a really big problem for companies trying to make themselves understand in French. And really, it's not about translation at all, because if you're trying to help a company sell in a foreign market, you want to sell. You don't want to translate. You want to make that company sound really great. And it's a different kind of a job. And that's how we started.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I like it's not about translation. It's the marketing of that. So I guess we'll come to that. So how did you get into the e-commerce side? What was why was that?
Well, funnily enough, actually, I've sold on Amazon since 2006. So when I lived in the USA, I was a PhD student, and all my PhD student friends had a lot of very weird and wonderful books that we'd read for a semester and then never use again. And so I started off by selling my friends' textbooks online on Amazon.com, and I took a share of the profits that we made from that. And because the textbooks were so strange and very niche subjects to do with anthropology and stuff, I started out that way, and then I brought that business over to the UK when I moved back. So I sold books on Amazon for a long time, and I kind of knew that platform. And so when it came to looking at how we could help people do translations, Amazon was a natural fit.
Fantastic. It looks like you've got a huge amount of books behind you as well.
There are a couple I didn't sell, let's put it that way. Yeah, I spotted them.
You didn't quite sell all of them.
Wow, no.
Oh, fantastic. So let's talk about translation then. So people are coming into the EU market. I mean, typically a lot of our clients, or the majority of our clients, are American, and they're expanding into Europe. They do the UK listing, and American to English, you can pretty much the majority of people can get that pretty much nailed coming over. And yes, there are some words that we would like to allude to that aren't exactly the same, and pants and trousers and bonnet and hood, and I think there's a few others that we could probably read off the top of our heads, but that's sort of covered. But then we get to the rest of the marketplaces, don't we? And we've got a few questions around that, I suppose.
Sure, right. So it can be really interesting to try and sell in different countries, and there's a bunch of different reasons for that. So of course anyone can use Google Translate, and it does quite a good job if you want to get the general sense, but it's not very good for selling. So I'll give you an example. I had a food client in the UK that wanted to sell his peanut butter in France. Now, when you talk about peanut butter in English, you talk about crunchy or smooth, but his translator had translated smooth as slippery. So he was selling his peanut butter online in France as slippery peanut butter. You might not want to do that. And I advised him there was probably a better way of marketing it to French people than thinking they'd slide across the floor with it. And that's a typical example of where one little slip can actually really affect your sales.
Yeah. Well, and that is exactly it. There's sort of a few different levels of translation, isn't there? You've got Google Translate, and Google Translate will, if you're short of cash and you need something to happen, then it's going to get the listing up. Is it going to work? Probably not, but it's going to get it there. But the sales and marketing copy of that listing is crucial, right?
That's right, yeah. I mean, it could be, depending on what you're selling, that it really doesn't make much of a difference. If you've got a brand and you've got a story to tell and you want people to buy into that, then Google Translate probably isn't the best way. You want somebody that's lived in the country where you're selling into, that knows what people really want. I'll give you another example. I work with a UK beauty brand that's selling hand cream, and on one of their product listings, it's the copy says, "Don't be ashamed of your hands. Buy our hand cream and make them soft and smooth." And my French translator's like, "You cannot say that to a French woman. You cannot tell her to be ashamed of your hands. You must seduce her." And that's a typical example. Even if the translation's right, if you're not talking to your French consumer in a way that they want to hear, it's not going to be a good job. So we changed that listing, and we improved the conversion rates just with the way we approached how you talk to a French woman about her hand cream.
Yeah. And that's crucial, isn't it? So, I mean, obviously from a listing point of view, there's several different translations, isn't there? We've obviously got title and sales and copy, and then we've also got the keywords.
That's right. And as we know, that you want to make sure you've got your keywords that are appropriate for your marketplace before you even start. And sometimes I have interesting experiences. I know we all know there's lots of great software out there to help us find keywords, to help us sell online by taking a few shortcuts. I'm all about that. We all need to save time. But sometimes the people I work with send me long lists of foreign words that they think it might be a good fit to put in their listing. And actually, if you don't know what those foreign words mean, you really want to get them checked by somebody. You can even use Google Translate, but a lot of those software programs will give you quite irrelevant search terms, and they need to be approached with a bit of caution, because you could be selling something very different. Once you've got your search terms, whether you're using competitor listings, some software, Google Translate, then you want to weave them into a really attractive story that makes the same kind of impact that you would have in English.
Yeah, quite right. And okay, so what sort of language do you guys cover? I mean, obviously you've already talked about French, but I'm pretty confident you do some other languages as well.
Yeah, we do. So obviously we do English, but we do French, German, Spanish, Italian, and we also do Japanese. So we're pretty well covered. You've already got your listings done in German. You want them done in French. We can help you with that. You're just going to go straight into the Spanish market from English. We can do that too. I've got a bunch of really talented translators that I know personally that have both lived in the UK, so they know a lot about English and they know a lot about their home countries and what people's buying habits are, and that's what makes the difference to pitching a product for a market that's not your own.
Yeah, and that's the crucial bit, isn't it? Where I think you've said it a couple of times, where people have lived in those countries, they understand the market, and we're not going to get from smooth to slippery. I like that analogy. That's right. I really like that. That's gonna stick with me for a while. That is. Okay, perfect. So, different translations, nice and simple, and what sort of impact have you seen has had on your clients' businesses based on some of these, translations?
That's a really great question. So if we look at a nut butter brand that I work with, for example, just after 1 month of reworking their French listings to make sure that they said the right thing about the nut butters, and also to do an advertising campaign where we used the right words that were appropriate for the French audiences, we had sales up by 30% and advertising costs reduced by 20%. And that's through a lot of thought about what do French people want to hear and what are they searching for.
Yeah, that's massive, isn't it? So 30% up and a 20% saving.
Yeah, that's right. It can be pretty high impact, and especially if you're already aware of it when you start. You don't have to waste time going back 2-3 times. You just get it done right, and you can move forward.
Yeah. And so what sort of size are the clients that you're working with? Are they, let's take the nut butter, are they big clients, or are they relatively small, new to the market clients?
So typically the clients that I work with will have built their Amazon online brand out of not very much, and they're probably now turning over £1 million, like $1.4 million, that type of area. So they might have between 5 and 10 people working for them, with them, and they're selling usually UK, Europe. They might be selling in the USA as well, but they typically either British or European. I have a couple of North American clients.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously for all our clients listening that are North American, massive resource here for you to for translations, really.
I hope to say so. And also, I spent 4 years living in Michigan, so I know quite a lot about the States. Know quite a lot about how to work with people in the United States. Yeah,
fantastic. Lovely. Now, a few sort of random questions to the side then that I quite like to extract from people. So, obviously it's, you've got your own business, you're running your own business. What are sort of things that you do to sort of educate yourself, perhaps around Amazon or not around Amazon, to, that you can share with other entrepreneurs that are listening?
I think it's really important to remember that Amazon is one sales channel, or often only one sales channel of a business, and not to treat things in isolation. So when I'm working with businesses, I like to keep up on what other marketing trends are and outside of Amazon platform, and make sure that the broader things that are happening in the marketing world, that we're kind of keeping that in focus as we look to grow ourselves on Amazon. The second thing is I belong to a bunch of Facebook groups, so some of this software that we all know can work so well. I like to see what discussions are going on there, what challenges people are having, and then I'm going quite regularly to networking events and kind of seller education events in the UK to just shake it up a bit, hear some motivational speakers, and try and keep myself fresh.
Nice, fantastic. Now, big question at the moment: Brexit. It's my favourite question. I couldn't let a podcast go by with getting somebody else's input from it. Obviously you work across all the European markets like we do. We're a bit of a stalemate with Brexit at the moment, with the Parliament sort of essentially extending the deadline to the 31st of October. So we're no nearer than we ever have been, really. What's your thoughts, takes?
I think it often depends on the size of the business and what their ambitions are. I've got companies I've spoken to that don't want to make any moves because of Brexit. They're a bit afraid. Other companies are going full steam ahead, that they know there are market opportunities, and however things work out, they want to be in the market at the right time, selling stuff that they know people want, and they just figure that Brexit will figure itself out. So it's a real range, and I guess it depends on how much guts, how much risk appetite you've got, and how much you've really researched what the opportunity is on the other side.
Yeah, quite right. Okay, and so let's just take a couple of myths. So what have you heard of any sort of myths around people expanding to Europe? What's the sort of things that put people off, do you think? And
one of the conversations I often have, actually, I'll have conversations with my UK clients, and they'll tell me, Eloise, I've got 90% of my sales in the UK and 10% in continental Europe. Why is that? And then my clients in Germany will say, Eloise, I've got 90% of my sales in Germany and only 10% in the UK. Why is that? And I think one of the things I've seen is that everybody has a problem exporting to foreign markets. And the myth is, if you slap some cheap and dirty product listings online in a foreign language, that somehow they'll stick and get traction for you. And I think we can see from that example that everybody is going to have a problem if they don't have some local market knowledge. So I would say it's a myth that you're going to kill it on Amazon if you're not thinking about how you're selling into that foreign market. And along with that is, it's so easy, as we know. That's what's great about Amazon. That's why we love it. At the press of a button, we can immediately open ourselves to all across Europe. But I would say it's also a myth that you're going to kill it if you're going to be really successful if you haven't thought about how you're going to get online reviews, how are you going to encourage your customers to review you in French or German, how are you going to get repeat sales, like what are you doing to build that customer base in that foreign language? Because just putting listings online for most people is not going to make it successful without a bit of thought about how can you talk to your customers and make them understand that you're going to solve their problem.
Yeah, fantastic. And there's quite a famous coach that says, where focus goes, energy flows. So, if you start putting your focus into those sort of areas, and if you don't put a focus in there, nothing's going to happen. So you have to put
your listings are just
going
to sit there, and you might sell one every 3 months, and that's just a reality. That's a reality. Yeah. But I help work with companies to make sure that it might mean some kind of marketing or email marketing or some promotions or something to make sure people just stop, click, and convert to a sale.
Yeah. So what's the big thing you see at the moment where people are having the most success on Amazon in the EU?
That's a really interesting question. I've got some big customers in a range of different areas. I specialise in beauty, in action sports, and in lifestyle. And it seems to me that those are categories where you can have quite a lot of success if you've got a good, upper mid-range product that's not too expensive, and they're not too seasonal either. There are a couple of dips and troughs, but you can't go too wrong with a really good brand that has quality products. And I would say that for my customers that are doing that, they're showing month-on-month growth.
Yeah, fantastic. And if you've got one piece of advice you could give to people when they're expanding, what would it be?
I would say that it's super exciting to expand, and there are loads of opportunities in Europe and a lot of big economies. But if you don't have a plan, even if it's on the back of an envelope, you're not going to get very far. And I'm sure that you would agree with me on that it doesn't have to be a Bible-sized plan. But if you haven't got a few key numbers in your head and a way of measuring how you're going to be successful month on month, you might come to a bit of a sticky end or waste a bunch of time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you've got to have a plan, and you've got to have and as you say, it can be a rough plan. It doesn't have to be an exact plan. It doesn't have to be a 20-page document. It's what we might have classed in the old days as the back of a fag packet sort of plan. And in so for those listeners, we've got our expansion series where you can go in and do a step-by-step expansion. At the top of the expansion site is, why am I expanding? How much do I want to sell in the first month, 12 months? It's a real basic plan. It's just a few key points. There's nothing major involved in it. So I totally agree that a plan is the is one of the biggest fundamentals.
Well, funnily, and in fact, Dwight Eisenhower, obviously President Eisenhower, once famously said that when I go into battle, I find that planning is useless, but plans are indispensable. And that means that although you're not going to do in war what you think you're going to do, you have to have a plan to start with. And he was a man that knew a lot of things, so it's something to think about. You've got to have at least a skeleton goal of what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, plans change. You've got to adapt. Totally agree. Fantastic. So if people want to get in contact with Eloise, how do they go about that?
No worries. So my company is called Sell Beyond. That's www.sell.com. You can find me on Facebook at Sell Beyond, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. I'm Eloise Finch. So happy for anyone to get in contact with me, just to have an initial chat about what might be a good fit for trying to sell into some foreign language markets.
Fantastic. Well, I want to say thank you very much for your time. It's been absolutely amazing having you on, sharing your knowledge for our customers and clients and potential clients, I suppose, all listening about what they can do to make sure their EU expansion is a massive success. So thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. Don't forget, from a global e-commerce expert's point of view, you can get in touch with us on expandtotheeu.com, where you can find all our content to help you to expand, or you can go to our website www.globale-commerceexperts.com. We're here to help you. You've got Facebook, Instagram, all that sort of stuff, and you'll be able to find us online. So thank you very much to Eloise once again for giving up her valuable time, and we look forward to helping all of our clients with their EU expansion over the coming months.